I never thought a bathroom could become a trap. The first time I noticed something was wrong, it was the smell, a wet, metallic sweetness that clung to the tiles like a secret. I had gone in late, the hallway light still humming, the house asleep except for the refrigerator's distant thrum. The mirror was fogged halfway from a shower I hadn't taken. My breath made a small rhythm on the glass, and when I wiped a circle with my sleeve, I saw, at the edge of the steamed glass, a smudge of hair that wasn't mine. At first I laughed it off. A draft, the cat, a trick of sleep. Then the taps ticked twice when I knew they were off, an absurd soft stutter like fingernails tapping Morse across porcelain. I froze, sound became immediate. The hum of the lamp, the hiss of pipes, the near imperceptible creak above the ceiling. Beneath those ordinary noises, there was something else. A soft, rustling whisper, like many legs over linoleum. I tell you this like someone naming the pieces of a crime scene. Detail matters, because each small wrongness stacked into something monstrous. The tub was full of clear water that caught the ceiling light and turned it into a pale coin. There were no footprints on the damp bath mat, but the water had ripples, concentric rings that started near the drain and pulsed outward as if something had brushed the surface and retreated. My phone died when I tried to call. The screen went black, as if the room had swallowed the battery whole. I moved like a hesitant animal, hand on the sink, feeling the cold of chrome. My reflection stared back, wide-eyed and smaller than I felt. Behind me, a shadow fell across the tiles, not a cloak or a coat, but the suggestion of long angles. I told myself to step forward, to turn the light on fully, to find reason. My foot caught on something soft at the threshold, like webbing, and I nearly fell. Then I smelled it stronger, that damp sweetness laced with iron. Close enough now that I could taste it on my tongue. I could hear a breathing that was neither mine nor human, a sucking, patient inhalation that seemed to come from the corners of the room. I pressed my back to the door and listened to my own pulse, loud and shameful. Whatever was in that room was no animal I'd seen. It was waiting. When it moved properly, the room betrayed geometry I thought I understood. At first, it was only a twitch, a long, jointed limb brushing the edge of the bathtub. But then the shadow resolved into angles and, horrible, into something that wore a grin I recognized too well. Teeth too many, flat and papery, arranged like a serrated smile from a nightmare. It did not lurch, it unfolded. 8 legs, too long and too deliberate, found purchase on tile and wood with a sound like old paper tearing. The thing leaned its face toward me, and there was a human shape where a spider's head should be, hair matted and clinging, eyes sunk and black as old coins. It smiled like a person who knows you and is delighted. My voice left me. I wanted to run, to slam the door, but my body moved wrong, slow, as if the house itself had tugged at my limbs. For a moment, I watched myself from across the room, my mouth forming words I couldn't hear, my hands trembling in a way that felt remote and staged. That distance was the cruelest thing. I was watching my own terror like a spectator in a film of my life, and the film kept looping small, fatal details. The sound of the light above the mirror buzzing into silence, the slow exhale of the creature, the clink of a tile edge as one leg found it. It did not attack me like a wild thing. It examined me. One of its long forelegs reached out, and the tip tapped my wrist with an absurd delicacy. The touch was cold and sticked like old sap. When it drew back, there were tiny hair-like filaments clinging to my skin. I tried to pull them off, and they won't come clean. They embedded like burrs, leaving stinging pinpricks that burned into my veins. Then the first real twist. I looked at the mirror to find my reflection smiling when I was not. My lips curled in a way I had not commanded. My eyes had a bright, wet focus, as if someone had shone a torch behind them. Memories started to leak like water through a poorly sealed tub. Scenes I had believed private, the late-night stop at the chem lab, the group of graduate students joking about controlled exposure, a bulletin about a missing specimen, came rushing in unbidden, but not as memory, as evidence. I could not tell whether I had forgotten these things or if the house had edited them out. Voices invaded the edges of my hearing, fragments like names read from a file. The more I tried to grasp the threads of who I had been, the more the spider-like thing tilted its head and seemed to mimic me. It copied my breathing, my smallest facial tics, my shudder. It knew the pattern of my fear, and then it spoke. Not with words, not in a voice, but as if it had learned to press my own memories back at me, images, scents, echoes. For one stomach-twisting second, I felt the memory of a syringe sliding into muscle, the metallic tang of adrenaline, the sterile sting at the back of a neck. I vomited on the floor, and the creature laughed in that wet, textile sound. It was not outside me. It had threaded itself into the narrative of my life, into the why and the when. I thought, if this was an experiment, someone had been watching me long before tonight. I thought, maybe I had volunteered. I thought, maybe I had never been alone. The legs scraped the tile in slow applause. The house sighed around us, and the light above the mirror flickered once, twice, like a countdown. I tried the door, and it wouldn't budge. My shoulder met wood that had the peculiar give of a living thing, as if the jam itself had thickened to hold me in. Panic sharpened into a narrow, efficient thing. I shoved with both feet and felt the tiles under my soles vibrate with the creature's slow laughter. The light above the mirror guttered and went to a persistent, hungry dim that made the edges of the room merge into a single patient shadow. In that light, the spider's mouth, too many teeth like stacked plates, opened and closed as if testing the silence for flavor. I can remember the choices like cuts, to run and abandon my phone, to hide in the hallway where the silence felt less intimate, to try to smash the mirror and face what my reflection might give back. What I did was small and useless. I grabbed the edge of the bathtub and pulled myself up onto the slick rim, fingers scraping porcelain, knuckles skinned raw. Above me, the thing leaned its human spider face forward and breathed a hot draft of damp hair and old sap that smelled for a moment like my mother's house after rain. The recognition in its face was the worst, like a friend who had read every page of a book only to rewrite the last chapter. It reached again, this time not with a single probing leg, but with a flood of slender limbs that pressed against my forearms, my rib cage, the base of my skull. Each touch was a thread, and each thread pulled at memory until recollection and suggestion braided into one another. I felt myself tilt, a rush of scenes that were not exactly mine, but wore my name. Laboratories at night, the sterile whisper of a refrigerator, a researcher's laugh that I could not place. With each image came the sensation of something slithering beneath skin, a lightweight, alive pressure traveling along nerves like a cold current. I screamed, and the sound was eaten, absorbed into the space between the tiles. Then the mirror showed me not my face, but a sequence of small photographs. Me, younger, smiling at a fluorescent light. Me handing over a folder. Me asleep while a figure adjusted an instrument. The thing had arranged my life into an explanation. It presented me the evidence, and then, with the most human of gestures, tilted its head as if waiting for my consent. Consent is a strange word for what happened next. My body complied in ways my mind could not. My hands unclenched, my legs folded. It felt as if someone had pressed my spine into a chair and read aloud the chapters I had refused to recite. The filaments under my skin tightened, and I understood with sick clarity. Whatever this was had not merely watched experiments. It had been the experimenter's hand, the needle and glass, the quiet recorder. It had stitched itself to my life. The bathtub water lapped at my feet like applause. I thought of names I could call for help and realized no one knew what to call this. My voice came back in a hollow shape, and all that remained to me was a single decision I did not make. It's inside me.
Subscribe to Horror Story Bar.